is immune from having to make efficiency savings.
Thank you, Senator Ruston. Senator Ludlam.
Thank you very much, Mr Acting Deputy President. I think the only thing sadder than the axe that's been brought down on public broadcasting in the last couple of weeks and the confirmation that we've seen today about exactly how that's going to wash through is the shameless, bug-eyed hypocrisy of coalition senators lining up to condemn the consequences of the cuts that they voted for. Are you people completely out of your minds? It's absolutely unbelievable. Let's talk a little bit about the meaning of the word efficiency, because Senator Ruston, I suspect Senator Mackenzie is going to jump up and do the same thing shortly, pointed out that from a purely commercial point of view, the ABC is inefficient. Let's have a quick chat. Senator Mackenzie's not going to say that. I probably shouldn't preempt what other senators are going to say. But this idea that the ABC should just knuckle down and behave like a commercial broadcaster kind of gives the game away. The fact is, from a purely commercial point of view, it is inefficient to cover local sport. It's inefficient to maintain small regional bureaus in places like Wagen or Morwell. It's inefficient to maintain dedicated state current affairs reporting. It's probably really inefficient to put well-paid and well-resourced investigative journalists into the field. These things, from a purely commercial point of view, are inefficient, and that is why we have public broadcasters to provide those things, because the private sector won't. If you want to know what cutthroat commercial efficiency looks like, have a look at how commercial players have reacted to changes in the broadcast environment. They have reacted by closing down dozens of regional radio bureaus because they're expensive and inefficient. And now you get kids sitting in studios in Sydney reading news headlines that have been faxed to them from local newspapers, also likely produced a long way from regional towns, because that is more commercially efficient than maintaining people in those towns in the first place. So we also see incredibly superficial treatment of current affairs. It's expensive and commercially probably a bit inefficient to maintain the kind of world-class current affairs and investigative work that we've trusted the ABC and SBS to do. It's not impossible, and we do obviously have great journalists working in commercial bureaus around the country and upstairs here in the gallery, but it's difficult. It requires commitment, and from a purely commercial point of view, it's inefficient. And that is why we see some commercial current affairs programs that have just gone down this degraded rabbit hole where it's like watching the visual equivalent of junk mail. It doesn't really count as current affairs anymore, and it's a lot cheaper to produce than putting top-notch investigative journalists on planes and sending them around the world to hotspots, or having them poke their noses into place where powerful people would probably prefer it wasn't going on. If you want efficiencies, look what has happened in the corporate sector. Mass sackings, closure of bureaus, disappearance of decent investigative work. Is that really the kind of efficiencies that you want to pursue? Because then coming into this place and lining up with surprise, Mr Pyne putting out a press statement saying, "I'm deeply disappointed in the ABC's announcement about the closure of South Australia's production facilities." What did you expect? Senator Mackenzie seeking assurances from the ABC that they won't cut services in her backyard. Good luck, Senator Mackenzie. I wish you well. I suspect you're on a hiding to nothing. If you seriously didn't expect that this was going to happen, I'm not sure that it's going to be possible to help you. But marching in here and railing on behalf of your constituents about how Mr Scott shouldn't be centralising things—
Address your remarks to the chair, Senator.
I certainly will, Mr Acting Deputy President. Thank you for the reminder. This has been going on for years. The closure of Hobart, for example, the gradual leaching and running down of production capacity in Western Australia, which has cost a lot of good people their jobs. This has happened right around the place. In fact, I think Adelaide really is the only place left outside the Sydney-Melbourne axis that has maintained dedicated production capacity. You know why? Because centralisation is efficient, according to the way that these calculations are made. On the raw spreadsheets, it's less efficient to have people right around the country doing this kind of work. That is why we maintain public broadcasters in this country, because the private sector really has to pay attention to those kind of efficiencies, and that's why we see the hollowing out of regional production. If you are so desperate to operate ABC and the SBS as efficient commercial broadcasters, I invite coalition senators to quit your Senate positions and go and get jobs in the private sector, and leave people who care about public broadcasters and public institutions to run those things, because quite clearly you're more interested in running these institutions into the ground. Quit your jobs in the Senate running public broadcasters and go and find yourselves work in the public sector. I'm sure they would love to hear your views on efficiency out there. But leave the ABC and the SBS the hell alone in the meantime. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Ludlam.